Now to a First Coast News investigation. Big trucks, big scheme. And we're going to start with this. Why is there a hole in this t-shirt? You can see the hole right there. State investigators say this is part of a cheating scheme centered in Jacksonville, making our roads treacherous.
All right, welcome to the Golden Belt Buckle podcast. Let's get right into it, but do me a favor, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So we've all heard about the Harjinder Singh crash and how it set off a powder keg all over the United States, both federal and state level, right? Everybody's kind of being audited now at this point, right? And then we just had that recent case in Florida where you had dozens of people cheating their CDL tests they're by wearing those vests with the holes in it. You know, they're wearing earpieces. They had a guy out in a van telling them the correct answers to the knowledge test. So we had that. And that was dozens of people, right? But have you ever stopped to think for a minute? Let's connect the dots. Let's look back a little bit. Let's take a bird's eye view and get an idea just how deep the corruption runs, right? Because, you know, we always talk about things like this is one story, this is another story. The news cycle goes on and we forget what happened yesterday. But let's tie this all together a little bit. You know, we just had in Kentucky, you had 2,000 drivers who got their regular driver's licenses without having the proper documentation. And people say, well, these were immigrants. They got their licenses. These are just regular driver's licenses. What does it matter? Well, it matters because your regular driver's license is your first step if you want to get a CDL. Not everybody who gets a driver's license gets a CDL, but if you're getting your CDL, you have to have a driver's license. So that's why it's significant, right? It's not just about looking at CDLs. It's about looking at how people are getting the CDLs. It's about what comes before the CDL. It's the entire supply chain, the pipeline, the process. So we had that story. Then in Florida, you had 8 arrested for selling thousands of fraudulent driver's licenses to undocumented immigrants, including, this one included CDLs. They were charging, I can't remember if it was a couple of $100s for cash, but they weren't even giving them a driver's test. They were just giving them the license. They were just selling this to them. That was June 16th, 2025. Go back to July 4th, 2025. You've got the story, when I say possibly, not just hundreds, but thousands of driver's licenses were given to Chinese immigrants. And it was argued that possibly these guys thought they were following the process. I don't know, right? Because they couldn't speak English, right? So the lawyers are arguing, well, they might have thought they were following the process. They might not have thought they were doing anything wrong. I don't know. But again, that's thousands of people that can't speak English that are being given driver's licenses going out on the roads. And then in a story that broke May 2nd, 2025, from 2019 to 2023, about 3 dozen fake passing CDL tests were given by a former state trooper. He was being paid in the form of, it looks like food and like coffee, tea, water, Twizzlers, other types of candy. And the big ones, he had a $10,000 driveway put into his house. And he also had a $2,000 snowblower given to him. So him and a couple of his state trooper buddies were arrested and charged. That scam went on from 2019 to 2023. So if you look at the big picture, what are we seeing here? We're not seeing fraud in just one place, right? We're seeing massive fraud at all levels. These are just a few stories from the states that stories I looked into, right? But so it's not confined to any one state. It's at all levels, and it's not just one race, just 2 stories, Chinese and East Indians, right? But I'm sure there's others, right? Maybe they haven't got caught yet, or that's just not what the story, there's other stories, right? So these are just the ones I got. So it's not confined to any one race, and the scams are actually perpetrated by, oftentimes, not just illegal immigrants, but also by DMV workers, or they're perpetrated, by the looks of it, American citizens. And it's not just that the people receiving the benefits of this fraud are foreigners. It's also regular citizens that are receiving these benefits. So that the Massachusetts example, you go into the story, it was him doing favors for his buddies, right? I got a buddy here, I need you to help. It's all over by all people, different nationalities and citizens all alike. So the significance of this, maybe it explains how someone like Harjinder got their driver's license or their CDL to begin with, right? Maybe he did what these guys in Florida did. Maybe he had a vest on and someone was looking at his, someone was talking to him on an earpiece. Maybe that's what they did in Washington State, right? Because Washington State, if that's where he got his CDL, doesn't offer it in English. Or excuse me, it doesn't offer it in Punjabi. There's 4 languages, and Punjabi isn't one of them. So assuming he can read Punjabi, right, it's not on there unless he knows one of those other 4 languages. So maybe he committed fraud that way, right? It explains a lot. So maybe the answer is to do maybe better background checks on the employees, credit checks, maybe taking all these guilty parties and profiling them and seeing if there's some sort of correlation between all these different individuals, find out all the things they have in common so the hiring manager can make a better decision in who they give the authority to issue CDLs and do road tests. I don't know, Here's a controversial one. The government should promote strong marriages where parents encourage their children to respect the rule of law, right? You never hear that. We always hear it's got to be some sort of government program. We don't ever, at least I rarely ever hear it, where they're promoting strong families, grow up, get married, have children, raise them to be good, moral, upstanding citizens. That would be one way of doing it, right? So I don't know. But anyways, that's how widespread it is. The corruption is all over the place, all levels. It's rampant everywhere. So anyways, that's all I got for today. If you like what you see, do me a favor, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And leave your comments down below. And I get to them as best I can. Sometimes my video pops and there's just way too many. Other times, there's not so many. So I prefer many, but anyway, all right, take care. Cheers. Keep the rubber side down.